Manchester United already creates enough to be the top attack in the Premier League. They just need to finish better. Their default system is this 3-4-3 we see on screen. The usual lineup is this one, with some variation between Matheus Cunha and Šeško, but there's also significant variation in the wingbacks. Usually, Diallo plays on the right side and Dalot on the left, but we can also see Diallo being replaced, Dalot moving to the right side since he's a natural right back, and Dorgu operating as the left wing back. We can also have Mazraoui playing as the right wing back. Normally, the most common pairing is Dalot on the left, playing with his inverted foot, and Diallo on the right, also inverted. So a left footer on the right side and a right footer on the left. This wingback configuration follows a logic of alternating characteristics between the two sides. Usually, on one side, let's mark it in red, you have a more vertical side. When Diallo plays on the right, that side becomes more vertical, while the other side becomes more associative, with more passing combinations and build-up play, which is usually the left. So we have this pattern, one side that's more direct and vertical, where the team accelerates more plays, and usually where United's main chances come from. And another side that's slower and more associative, with more ball possession and passing volume. This brings a few tactical alternatives. On the left side, the main options are Dorgu and Dalot. Dorgu, highlighted in red, offers a more vertical approach, while Dalot, highlighted in white, is the option when United needs more associative play down that side. On the right, Diallo provides verticality, while Dalot and Mazraoui offer more associative options. This pattern is generally well respected, one lane with a vertical profile, the other with an associative profile. That's why we rarely see Dorgu and Diallo starting as wingbacks at the same time. Out of United's 9 matches so far, only once did both start together, because typically there's one more aggressive flank and one more associative. The more aggressive flank on the right is usually Dalot, and on the left, it's Dorgu. If both play together, both sides would become simultaneously vertical and aggressive, something that's not a recurring pattern for United. That's why we usually see Diallo on the right and Dalot on the left. That way, United gets a more vertical right side with Diallo and a more associative left side with Dalot. We can also see Dalot on the right and Dorgu on the left. In that case, the left side with Dorgu becomes the more vertical and aggressive one, and the right side with Dalot becomes more associative, with more patient build-up and passing exchanges. On the right side, Mazraoui can also appear there, as another associative option. It's interesting that one pattern that tends to repeat itself in Manchester United's matches, if we look at the stats, is the concentration of play, which almost always leans toward the side where the team has a more associative style. In the example of Manchester United's 2-1 win over Liverpool, Dalot played on the left side, representing the more associative flank, while Diallo played on the right, which was the more vertical one. On the chart, we can see that the left side shows higher density and a greater concentration of actions. However, during the match, we could intuitively perceive a higher volume on the right side. That happens because, on the right, since play tends to be faster, more direct, and vertical, the attacks usually develop and finish more quickly. This may reflect in the concentration of ball actions. Generally, as on the left side, the associative one in this case, there are more passing combinations and worked plays. We naturally see a higher concentration of actions with the ball there. It's the opposite of what happened, for example, in the match against Chelsea, when Dorgu played on the left and Mazraoui on the right. In that setup, the left side with Dorgu was more vertical and aggressive, while Mazraoui on the right represented the more associative side. And we can see the same pattern again. A higher density of ball actions on the associative side, the right side, and a more vertical left side where plays are decided faster. But generally, the main goal-scoring chances come from the more vertical flank, the one where Dorgu or Diallo are positioned. Manchester United is a team that attacks a lot through the flanks, and statistically, that's reflected in the number of crosses they make. United is the 3rd team with the most accurate crosses, behind only Wolverhampton and Leeds United. It's also a team that relies heavily on long balls, and the numbers show that. They're the team with the highest number of successful long passes in the Premier League, averaging about 18.6 accurate long balls per game. This relates to the strategy Manchester United usually employs to break the opponent's first defensive line. If we simulate their build-up from the back, it would look something like this. The goalkeeper stays more central, the wide center backs position themselves wider, the central defender, here, Maguire, pushes slightly higher, jumping the first opposition line, close to Casemiro, and Mbeumo is usually the most advanced player. The main target for these long balls is typically the striker, especially when Šeško is playing. But when Matheus Cunha is in the lineup, he also becomes the target for these long passes, though with different characteristics. Matheus Cunha is quicker and more comfortable on the ball, while Šeško is stronger in aerial duels. United frequently uses these long balls, often directly from the goalkeeper, aiming for the striker. They're not a team that builds patiently from the back. They prefer to go long. The goal is for the striker to flick the ball on, usually toward Mbeumo, who is the fastest player in the attack, or at least to contest it. Whether they win or lose the header, the ball ends up in midfield, where they fight for the second ball. The objective is for United's midfielders to win that second ball, whether it's headed down by the striker or cleared by an opposing defender. Once they regain possession, United typically looks to accelerate the play down the more vertical side. In our example, that would be Diallo on the right and Dalot on the left, meaning the right side with Diallo becomes the vertical one where the play is usually launched. We have some examples, including goals that came exactly from this kind of situation. We have a frame of a long ball launched by United in the match against Liverpool. Here, Mbeumo is challenging for the ball with two Liverpool defenders. What's going to happen? The play will be deflected. Mbeumo won't even win this first ball, but it will end up falling to Bruno Fernandes in midfield. Look closely. We have Diallo on the right side and Dalot on the left. Bruno Fernandes tends to try to accelerate this play down the right side, which would be the vertical side in this match, with Diallo out wide. Diallo will find himself in a favorable situation for him. He's a very quick player on his stronger foot, facing Kerkez one-on-one. You can notice that Kerkez has no cover. There's a very large space between Kerkez and Konate, the right center back, since Van Dijk had stepped up to contest the first ball from the long pass. That space between Kerkez and Konate will be attacked by some Manchester United players, mainly the one who has that strong characteristic of attacking open spaces, Mbeumo. He will sprint precisely to invade that gap, as we see in the next frame. When that happens, he races with Van Dijk, accelerating straight into that zone. Diallo will look for that through ball toward Mbeumo, will connect, and Mbeumo will go one-on-one and score to put United ahead against Liverpool. Here's another very similar example. A long ball targeting Šeško, the striker, in a match against Brentford. Šeško will first try to flick it on toward Mbeumo. He won't be successful. Brentford's defense clears it. However, the ball remains contested in midfield and ends up falling to Ugarte, one of the midfielders in that match. And the same pattern unfolds. Ugarte stays on the ball. We can see that on the left side we have Dorgu, and on the right, Dalot. So, the vertical, quicker, and more aggressive side for United in this game was the left side, thanks to Dorgu's presence. The play will be directed exactly toward that side. On the more vertical side, Dorgu delivers the cross, the ball bounces around in the box, and Šeško finishes it off to score. This type of pattern has been paying off for Manchester United, as they're the team that has generated the most XG in the Premier League. They are first in the league, the team that has created the highest quality chances throughout the competition. In fact, in two of Manchester's 3 defeats this season, 1-0 against Arsenal and 3-1 against Brentford, they actually generated more XG than their opponents. And yet, they still lost, which also shows a higher conversion efficiency from the opposition, and that Manchester United could be achieving better results based on the volume of chances they create. This becomes clear when we observe that, despite being the team that has generated the most XG in the Premier League, they are only the 9th best attack, the 9th team in terms of goals scored.